This video is sponsored by Incogni. I recommend that you take your personal data back by going to incogni.com/companyman, and if you use the code companyman, you will get 60% off an annual plan. The link is in the description. Freddy's has become one of the most successful fast food restaurants in the United States. For over a decade now, it has consistently been labeled one of the fastest growing chains in the country. Like in 2021, when it was ranked number 8 on Restaurant Business Magazine's list of the fastest growing chains in the US. The first Freddy's was opened in Wichita, Kansas, which coincidentally happens to be the same city as the first White Castle that opened all the way back in the 1920s, generally believed to be the first ever fast food restaurant. Well, that first Freddy's didn't open until 2002 and has already grown to be bigger than White Castle, surpassing 500 locations in 2023. Freddy's can now be found in 36 states throughout the country, with Texas now being its biggest market, having surpassed their home state of Kansas by quite a bit. Now, the CEO of Freddy's has pointed out that it competes with different higher quality hamburger chains in different parts of the country, specifically identifying Whataburger in Texas, In-N-Out in the Southwest, and Culver's in the North. In fact, those all happen to be subjects of previous videos on this channel, and I think it's saying something that each time viewers have left comments making that comparison on their own, typically saying that they prefer Freddy's. The CEO also went on to say, "Really, the Northeast is the last frontier for us, but we're coming." When I hear that, I instantly think about Friendly's, a somewhat comparable chain of restaurants from the Northeast that has been struggling. The names and the logos are strikingly similar, so I don't know, that might complicate things, but it seems possible that Freddy's could somehow push right into the area and become the new Friendly's, though I'm not too sure how the locals would feel about that. Either way, it is looking like Freddy's will continue to grow. In 2021, the original founders sold the company to a private equity firm, which I know might be an alarming sentence, but so far things have remained strong, and one of the co-founders, Randy Simon, said that a big motivation behind the sale was to help expand the business. And 2023 did prove to be their biggest growth year, opening almost 60 new locations, including one at Busch Stadium in St. Louis, where the Cardinals' Major League Baseball team plays. In 2024, they opened a new 23,000 square foot training and innovation center to support accelerated growth, as they put it. There are already commitments in place from existing franchisees to open hundreds of new restaurants, many of which are already in development. The company has expressed that the ultimate goal is to reach 3,000 locations, meaning it plans to grow 5 to 6 times larger than it already is. In short, the odds are that Freddy has already opened in your area within the past few years, and if it hasn't, you might just have to give it a little bit more time. In this video, I want to outline what I believe to be 5 of the biggest reasons behind the growth and success of Freddy so far that lead me to believe that it will in fact be one day expanding near you. Starting off with the most obvious reason, Freddy. Yeah, Freddy himself. The restaurant is named after Freddy Simon, who you might be surprised to hear is not the person who started it. Freddy Simon is a veteran of World War II, enlisting in the US Army in 1943. Shortly after graduating high school, he was awarded the Purple Heart and a Bronze Star for Valor. So by 2002, when the first Freddy's restaurant opened, he was already 77 years old. That restaurant was opened by 2 of his sons, Bill and Randy Simon, along with their friend Scott Redler. They were the ones who chose to name it after their father, I believe because he fit the image of the restaurant so perfectly. The very fact that he served in the military and grew up in the 1940s and 50s inspired that old-fashioned theme. The colors and the furniture and the decorations are all meant to resemble how a typical restaurant would have looked in that time period. On top of that, Freddy Simon spent over 50 years as a salesman, so he was a charismatic person that liked talking to people, making him a natural when it came to appearing at store openings or just making the customers feel welcome. I mean, he was like a celebrity, shaking hands and signing autographs when he would show up at one of them. It all promotes the image of a wholesome family restaurant, not to mention the fact that Freddy's frozen custard just sounds good with the alliteration. And amazingly, Freddy Simon lived until the age of 95, so he was able to see it grow into a national chain of around 300 good 80 locations. And today, even with him gone, that image that he inspired lives on, and the customers are reminded of him through photos and decorations with each visit. My next reason behind the success and potential of Freddy's is franchising. Now, this is where other people own and operate their own Freddy's restaurant, but pay the central company for the rights to do it. And honestly, this right here is probably the biggest single reason Freddy's has been able to surpass White Castle, because White Castle has never done this. Regular viewers of this channel can tell you right away that franchising is always a risk, because you have to choose the right people to do it and be able to work with them efficiently. So despite being an easier, less costly means of expansion, certain restaurants have avoided it. Now, Pizza Hut would be an example of a restaurant that has heavily relied on franchising. I mentioned them specifically not only because Pizza Hut is yet another chain that originated in Wichita, but because Bill and Randy Simon each separately had experience with companies that franchised Pizza Huts, among other restaurants. My point here is that each of them had experience on the other end of it, giving them a unique perspective. In 2002, that original Freddy's was created, I would say, as more of a passion project. They each already had their own careers, so they treated it like a hobby and never intended to even open a second location. But that first one proved to be so popular, and when they were approached by people who wanted to open their own franchises, they started seeing it as more of a promising business opportunity. The first franchised Freddy's, that's like a tongue twister, opened in a nearby city at the end of 2004, and they have continued signing franchise agreements ever since, now accounting for 95% of their locations. They generally have positive relationships with these franchisees, evidenced by the fact that there have been no major public issues, and by the fact that most of the franchisees go on to operate more restaurants. Another reason behind Freddy's growth and success has to be the company's emphasis on customer service. Notably, in 2021, Freddy's was ranked as #1 in their category in Newsweek's list of America's best customer service companies. Actually, to go along with their wholesome family image, the company likes to use the word hospitality, so I'll just go ahead and change the word on my list. There has always been an emphasis on keeping the restaurants clean and friendly, and in my experience anyway, that has been the case. They say that they hire employees based on their attitude and enthusiasm rather than their skills, because they believe that skills are more teachable. They even make the steak burgers to be fairly small, 1/6 of a pound, in part so that they can cook within about 90 seconds and the customers do not have to wait as long. And that is going to lead me right into the next reason on my list, the menu. I think we all knew this was coming, because the menu might just be the single most important factor behind the success or failure of most restaurants, but there are some things to highlight here. Going back to those steak burgers, that is what they are most known for, accounting for almost 2/3 of all food sales. The burgers are made to order using 100% lean ground beef and smashed down while cooking to make those signature crispy edges. The fries are also really thin, categorized as shoestring, and in my own opinion, go nicely with their trademarked fry sauce that was created by the founder Randy Simon and has become so popular that it is now available to purchase by the bottle. The frozen custard, my favorite part of going there, was originally inspired by a stand that the founders would visit at the Lake of the Ozarks while on vacation as children. Each restaurant churns it fresh in the morning and then again throughout the day as they need to, and by the way, frozen custard is differentiated from ice cream by the fact that it uses more eggs and a higher butterfat percentage. So admittedly not incredibly different from ice cream, but I would say that the difference is noticeable enough to at least give it a try and compare. They also serve Chicago-style Vienna hot dogs, chicken tenders, cheese curds, among many other things. Alright, I fear that if I go on too much about the menu that it'll start to sound like an advertisement for Freddy's, so I'll just end this part by emphasizing that it is in fact higher quality food made to order and generally praised by their customers. That praise is going to lead me into the final reason on my list, which is really just a result of the other reasons that brings it all together, a positive reputation. I want to be clear that I am of course not speaking for everybody, so please tell me if you feel otherwise, but it seems like most people have positive things to say about Freddy's. People go there and it is clean and friendly and fast, it has a cool retro theme going on, the food is good. Overall, the customers tend to have positive experiences, so they tell their friends about it and you can see how that can develop a positive reputation. When they enter a new area, it doesn't feel like they are forcing it upon the people because the people are usually already there waiting for it. I think it is wild that when they opened a new location in Jackson, Tennessee in 2020, it was so busy that at one point there were 129 cars waiting in the drive-thru. Can you even imagine wanting to try the food so much that you you were willing to wait for 128 cars to get it in front of you? Over the restaurant's 20+ year history, they have only ever closed 22 of them. On this channel, I've never even mentioned Freddy's before today, and still, there have been dozens of people in the comments requesting that I make this video, so the Freddy's fans even have me talking about it. System-wide sales are quickly approaching $1 billion per year, almost 4 times higher than they were a decade earlier, which is more than you would usually expect from a chain of 535 restaurants. Sales per location reached an all-time high in 2024, suggesting that there is in fact a strong demand out there to support all of these new stores opening. Not only are sales growing because they're opening new stores, it is because more people are going to each store. Freddy's continues to be among the fastest growing restaurants out there, and to me, there is little to suggest that things will be slowing down anytime soon. It is a well-liked concept with what appears to be a solid foundation, so if it hasn't already, do not be surprised if a new one opens near you. Let me know in the comments, what do you think about Freddy's? Is it a strong enough and unique enough brand to eventually reach that goal of 3,000 locations, or does that sound ridiculous to you? Maybe you think that Freddy's is already too big and you would much prefer if one of their regional competitors were to open in your area instead. So I guess the logical question here is, how do they all compare? Which higher quality burger chain is your favorite, and what do you get from there? As the name suggests, most of Freddy's sales come from frozen custard and steak burgers, but is there something else that you feel should be getting more attention? And any other thoughts you have about Freddy's frozen custard and steak burgers, or anything else in this video, leave them in the comments. I'd like to hear what you have to say. Today's sponsor is Incogni, and you probably do not even realize this is happening, but there are literally thousands of companies out there collecting, aggregating, and trading your personal data. Things like your name, email, home address, phone number. So for example, you could register for a store's loyalty card and then start getting spam emails and phone calls shortly after. But then some of the data I would consider to be more invasive, like your shopping habits, education, and employment history. It is troubling to think about, but there is a way to address it. Well, you could spend countless hours reaching out to these brokers yourself, requesting your personal data be removed and dealing with their objections, or you could have Incogni do it on your behalf. That is what I've been doing. They send me a progress report each month, and my most recent one revealed that they sent 462 opt-out requests on my behalf, 419 of which have resulted in my data being removed by that broker, while only 43 of them are still waiting for a reply. To get started, all you have to do is go to incogni.com/companyman and use code COMPANYMAN to get 60% off an annual plan. The link is in the description. Thank you for watching.